Hey guys, I'm Assassin Parks and I'm the SG of Ironwrath. I have a lot of new guys lately joining my clan. Some are returning players, others are casuals that have come and gone over the years, and some are brand new. And I'm getting a lot of the same questions from each of these guys. They're asking, what do I need to know? What has changed? What should I be doing? When I get in game, what should I be working on? And so the purpose of today's video is to go in chronological order as soon as you start the game, what you need to do, and what things you should be focusing on first. Skills, spells, what do you need to buy, what do you need to keep, what can you delete, all these type of questions. So I'm going to try and answer them as quickly as possible, but this video may run a little long. So I apologize if it does, but this video is again for the people that haven't been keeping up with Darkfall Rise of Agon. There is a second other Darkfall version out. It's called Darkfall New Dawn, and that isn't going to launch for a few more months. But I haven't been keeping up with that version, so we're going to talk about Rise of Agon. Alright, hope you enjoy. Alright guys, we're going to start with choosing races. The first thing you need to know is there is no longer racial wars. Now in Darkfall Rise of Agon, we have good versus evil. Everybody starts off good. That means everybody will be blue. You could go to other racial cities without getting attacked by the towers or by other players unless they choose to do so and go rogue and then eventually go red after they kill 2 or 3 different other blue players. This will turn them red or evil, and they will be kicked from all new player cities, meaning that they will have to find homes in either chaos cities or player ran holdings such as hamlets and cities. You could even live in chaos bindstones, but that would be even a harder life. Most notably, if you do go red, you will be kicked to the closest chaos bindstone, and that means you could be literally 1 minute away from a chaos bank, or you could be as far as a 30-minute naked run. So it is a harsh life to go red, and I advise not doing that so soon. Alright, with that said, now let's get on to race selection. In Darkfall Rise of Agon, there are 6 races, and each start with their own perks in the game, maxed out of course. So, let's start with the Orc. Orc starts with a bonus to all melee weapons, meaning he's going to do more damage with every melee weapon in the game. And he's going to be able to carry more items in his backpack. He gets a natural strength bonus. Also, he gets a slight bonus to HP. So, let's move on to Mahirams. That is the wolf creature. They're going to start off with a natural defense bonus to melee and archery damage. They also are going to start off with Mahiram Hunt Speed, which means you could strafe left and right and naturally walk faster than all the other races. And also, I believe they too get a health bonus. Let's move on to the elves, or we call them Murdanes in Darkfall. The Murdanes are going to start off as having a bonus to their archery damage, so they're going to be the archer tunes. They also are going to have a bonus to stamina, and they have a bonus to eyesight or ID tagging range. Let's move on to dwarfs. Dwarfs are going to be mostly for crafters. These guys start off with a bonus to crafting weapons, melee weapons, and armors. They get a bonus to the durability in those armors and weapons. They also start off with, I believe, more stamina, and they also start off with a skill that is push to use, which means in combat you push this skill, I forget the name of it, and while in melee your stamina doesn't run out half as fast. Alright, so let's move on to Alfar. Alfar, the Dark Elves in Rise of Agon, and these guys are going to get a natural bonus defense to magic damage. They also are going to get a crafting bonus to staffs, meaning staffs will have a higher durability if crafted by an Alfar. They also will, I believe, get a mana pool bonus, so they could cast more magics. Now let's move on to humans. Humans are going to get a food buff, meaning their food is going to last twice longer than any other race. And they're also going to get a bonus to buffs and buff others, meaning if a human iron skins himself, instead of it lasting 1 minute like all the races, it'll last 2 minutes. Or if he iron skins his friend, it's going to last 2 minutes instead of 1 minute. So that's a pretty cool perk. And I believe they also get a mana pull bonus. Okay, with that said, I'm going to go over it really quick again, if in a different type of way so you could understand it a little better maybe. If you're a big melee type player, you just like to whack things with a melee weapon, I'd advise going Orc. If you're an archer type player, you like shooting things with your bow, I'd advise going Murdain or Elf, whatever you want to call them. If you want to be a mage on mage type player, I'd advise going Alphar because they're going to be a magey type tune and they're going to have a defense against other mages. If you want to be a crafter or maybe like a warrior type spec, conservative to stamina, I'd say go dwarf. If you want to be the type of guy in your clan that is buffing everybody and healing them and just being a all-around team player, I advise going human. Humans also feel very smooth in melee and also magery. If you want to be a little more agile and a little more tanky, I advise going Mahiram. And all 6 races start with their own racial mounts and crafting mastery weapon. I'm not going to go into the details on that. If you guys want to look it up on the forums or Darkfall Wiki, you guys could do that on your own. It's just an added perk for choosing a unique race, having their own crafting mastery and different racial mount. Alright, so let's move on to as soon as you load into the game after selecting your race of choice. First, you're going to be right in front of a bind stone and a counselor NPC. Go talk to the counselor. He's going to give you a starter quest. Now, I hear the quest system in Rise of Agon at launch is going to be a thing to do. You're going to be rewarded with stat potions. These stat potions are going to give you 1 point each stam. You can keep taking these stat potions from quest rewards up until you have 25 in every stat. At that point in time, these potions will no longer give you stats. But you also want to do quests for meditation points. Meditation points are something that you're going to be wanting to do until your character is maxed out in all of its skills and spells. Meditation points get very, very pricey. And the one way to get them, I guess, is by doing all these new quests that they've implemented, and also by going to dungeons and doing the dungeon quests. They will reward you with meditation points and gold and sometimes some items. So advise doing that. Now, back to the bindstone I want to touch up on really quick. You would press F on any bindstone that you wish to bind to. You want to bind to these stones in case you die. If you're out farming or another player kills you, a monster kills you, you will die and you will respawn at a bind stone. Now, if you turn red from killing 2 or 3 other blue players, you're now considered evil or a murderer or whatever. We call them reds. You will go to the nearest chaos stone. The nearest chaos stone usually is not near a bank, meaning you're going to have to run naked with nothing on you to the closest chaos city where you could bind to and bank at. At these chaos cities, they can be very brutal. It's like living in a pirate town. Anybody can roll up at any time and they can kill you and take all your stuff. So it's the wild, wild west out there, and I'd advise thinking before you go red. And like I stated earlier, you don't want to go red so early on because certain skills and spell upgrades, you could only purchase these at NPC capital cities, which would be only blue players. Or if you're red, you can only purchase these in tier 3 mage towers found at player-owned cities. And it's going to take a while for these clans to build up their mage towers to tier 3s. I'd say at least a month into the game. Some larger clans can maybe get it up in a couple weeks, but that's kind of pushing it. They did have the cost to building up cities, so they're not quite as expensive. So there are clans that will be building them as fast as they can, so they can go red. But asking a clan leader if you could use their city to purchase skill upgrades in their Mage 3 tower can be a little hectic as well. You could go up there, they might say yes, and you're going to have 20,000 gold or whatever on you, and they might just kill you and steal it all. So be very careful, guys, about going red too soon. Alright, so let's move on. Okay, so another thing, guys, right when you're getting started, you're going to see guard towers. Guard towers are going to hit people that go rogue, meaning they're going to go gray if they hit other players trying to grief you in town, and they will die from these towers right away. But Rise of Agon devs, they did add in I guess it's a little button that you could turn on and off, meaning you won't hit other players unless that little button is on off. Meaning if you got 20 people at a goblin spawn in the very beginning, you could swing at other players and not injure them so you do not go rogue. This was a big issue in Darkfall 1. People were standing in front of other players on purpose, getting hit on purpose, so it will turn those guys rogue, and then they would kill them and steal all their loot. This is a form of griefing that Rise of Agon devs did not want in their version of Darkfall. So, with that said, if you want to go red, you can turn this little toggle off and you can attack other players. You will go rogue and then eventually you will go red, and guard towers will kill you. Newbie protection. Every character starting in Darkfall at launch will have a halo around their head. Now, this restricts you from using mounts, joining clans, creating clans, etc., but it only lasts an hour. And if you don't even want it that long, you can walk outside of your newbie town radius and sit out there in the outskirts, and your newbie protection will disappear. Now, this newbie protection is account wide, meaning every time you make a character, you're not going to necessarily get this newbie protection. It's only going to last 1 hour on your entire account. Meaning, if you play for 2 hours and make a new character, that new character is not going to have newbie protection. But if you play 15 minutes and then you decide you don't want to be an orc, you want to be a wolf, you delete it, you make a new toon, you will get newbie protection, but it will only now be 45 minutes instead of 1 hour long. Also, while you have this newbie protection on, other players cannot hit you and you cannot hit them. Even if they press their little button that I just spoke about earlier, and they want to go rogue, they still can't kill a person with newbie protection. Alright, so let's move on. So eventually, guys, your starter quests are going to lead you to Goblin Spawn. You're going to get your first action. You're going to be able to whack some monsters. And you're going to start off with newbie weapons, of course, and the goblins, they'll drop weapons also. Now, your newbie weapons are essentially rank 0 weapons. The devs did change it from the old DF1 version, where you can now gain skills by using newbie weapons. I would advise using maybe newbie weapons or other rank zeros for a while on low level mobs, because the more times you hit the mobs, the faster you will skill up. If you go into a newbie spawn and you're using a high rank weapon and you just kill them in one hit, you will get loot faster, meaning you can get gold per hour much quicker that way. But in the beginning, you actually want like a punching bag, so to speak. You want to hit them as many times as you can before they die, so your skill increases quicker. Not only your skill is going to increase, but also your stats. So if you're doing melee, your quickness and strength is going to increase. If you're doing shooting spells, not only the spell is going to increase, but also your intelligence and wisdom. If you're shooting a bow, your quickness and dexterity is going to increase, etc. Alright, guys. Now, one thing you need to know, though, about spells is utility spells, heal self spells, heal other spells, buff spells, and buff other spells. The big picture game devs, they decided that they wanted to skill these spells up differently. because people were making macros and going to work all day while their character is auto casting these spells. Now, so their change to it was, well, let's make these monsters drop essences. Players will get essences, and they'll also find papyrus randomly spawning on the roadside or whatever out in the wilderness. And they're going to use this papyrus, also these essences, to make scrolls. And these scrolls will then be used to increase their skill level in these spells. So you need papyrus, you need essences from mob spawns, and then you go make a scroll, and you can use the scroll to increase your knowledge in the type of spell of your choice. Now you can also do this with other spells and also now melee skills. Some like hobgoblins, they drop some type of paper that is used to make a manual where you make a skill book, and it's the same thing basically, but for weapon skills. I know that can be a little confusing. I'm trying to rush through this, guys. Basically, now all the skills and spells aren't only leveling up based on use, but some have to be leveled up by creating scrolls and books. All right, now this is going to be maybe good money for new guys if they want to go be papyrus hunters or essence hunters or whatever and sell them to other players. All right, so let's move on. Now, after you kill a monster, your first goblin, you're going to want a skinning knife. I believe some goblins actually drop skinning knives. If they don't, you're going to want to go purchase a skinning knife from a vendor for 20 gold. And you do not need to set a hotkey to these anymore. Any tools for that matter, pickaxes, wood axe, a sickle, a fishing pole. Now all you got to do is, as soon as you look in a grave, your skinning knife will automatically go into your hand, and you could left click on a grave and skin. You want to save all these skins. These are one of the most expensive resources in the game of Darkfall. So you want to hoard them. Eventually, if you want to sell them, you can. But what skins are used for, and also now gems, so you want to keep gemstones if you find them on monsters or in random little chests that you find. They are used for buffing equipment. You make little enchants gems, and you use these gems to place on your armor and weapons, and it'll give your armor and weapons bonuses and different things. I'm not going to go into that. You guys are just going to have to figure that on your own. But I am telling you to skin every grave, save all your skins, save all your gems, because you will need them. What else do you want to save? You want to save your potions. You want to save reagents. You want to save your arrows. The things that you really don't need is weapons and armors that you get off mobs. You can use them right when you're starting off just for extra protection, but those are the things you're going to want to sell to the vendor. Usually armor, weapons, jewelry like necklaces and rings. You could sell all that junk. But everything else you're going to want to keep. You're going to want to keep all the food, all the potions, all the reagents, obviously the gold, etc. All right. All right, guys. So once you guys looted up and you're ready to head back into town, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to the bank and you're going to want to bank stuff. You're going to want to bank all your skins they told you to save. You're going to want to maybe bank some gold. Maybe hang on to the gold for now. And before you sell anything, bank all the raw foods that you're going to use later for cooking. Anything that you want to save, bank it, because this is a full loot game and there will be people fucking with you. They are going to go red right after your hour newbie protection is up. So bank, bank, bank. As soon as you get back from anything you're doing, you want to bank. If you go on a gathering run like mining ore or hitting trees for timber, you get back, you bank it. If you're killing goblins for gold and items, you get back to the bank and you bank it. But the reason why I said hang on to your gold on this first run is because the first thing you're going to want to do, you're going to want to go visit some NPCs. These are the mages, the fighters, whatever. You could go to these NPCs. you could buy new skills, new spells. Now I'll get into the spells and skills that you maybe want to use a little bit later. The first thing I am going to say though, the goblins drop one-handed axes. I'd say hang on to those one-handed axes, and they are the best one-handers in the game. Not goblin axes, but I'm saying axes in general that are one-handers. Um, because at I don't know if it's level 25 or 50 or 35, but you could buy a perk for one-handed axes, which is called power attack. And if you power attack a mob with the one-handed axe, it debuffs all their natural defenses, meaning they're gonna die quicker. Now, early on, I told you you don't want them to die real quick, which is true. But eventually you're going to get to the point where you're going to want to kill mobs as fast as you can to make gold as fast as you can or other rare items. And what helps is a power attack from a one-handed axe. That's going to again lower all their defenses, and it's going to make them much squishier and allow you to kill them quicker. So I advise going one-handed axes. Alright, so let's move. Alright guys, I should actually cover weapons really quick. Great axes also have the little power attack debuff, so keep that in mind. Great axes are a strong weapon to use, but only if you land that power attack. The most commonly used weapon in the game is actually a great sword, a two-handed sword. And the reason for this is it has a wide arc, and they are fast weapons, and they do a decent amount of damage. Now, you can also use a great club, which, like a great axe, does a lot of damage and also takes a lot of stamina away from your opponent. But the arc is very small, meaning you have to have a very good aim. Now, the thing to note about Darkfall, ping does affect your gameplay. So a person with maybe under 50 ping, they're going to have a really good melee game. They're going to be able to hit people that have, let's say, 60 to 140 ping way easier than those other guys can hit them back. It's just something to do with Darkfall. Now, if you have super high ping, you're getting like 240 for whatever reason, you could kind of hit people easier than um, again, the same bracket of people, like 60 ping to 130 ping. You're going to be able to hit them easier than they're going to be able to hit you. It's something funky. People with low ping and people with high ping, they could kind of screw over the people with the middle range ping. Hopefully the new server will fix this a little bit, but we will see. Now let's get back to weapons. Knives are most commonly used for farming. So if you're a crafter type player or you're just trying to get lots of loots because you like loots in your bank or you know you want to sell on player auctions or whatever for real money, you're probably going to want to be a knife player. Knives aren't really used in PvP, but they can be, usually again by the people with the low ping. Um, so they are deadly. They're quick. They're quick. They do a lot of damage, but you got to land the attacks, and you land them easily on mobs. All right, let's move on. Other one-handed weapons, like I said, they aren't quite as good. Maybe if you don't want to go one-handed axe, I advise going one-handed club. Club has a blunt damage, so there's some monsters that are weak to blunt damage, and the clubs come into handy. Pole arms are very slow weapons, but if you're mostly a mage, you can go pole arm and you just whack people once in a while, and that one whack will do a lot of damage. But they're just so slow that you can't trade blow for blow with someone maybe wielding a sword. All right, so let's move on. One of the changes that Big Picture Games made recently was to shields and parrying. People used to be able to use a rank 0 one-handed weapon and a high-ranking shield to block a lot of damage. Now you need both. Now you need a high-ranked one-handed weapon and a high-ranked shield. So, that's all you need to know about that and parrying. Be advised, though, that when pairing against an opponent, they can disable your pairing with a melee blow or a archery attack that says disabling blow or disabling shot. So if your hand goes purple and you're not pairing anymore, it's best to heal up or attack or blind them or whatever you can do. Alright guys, so let's move on to gathering. In Darkfall, you want to hit iron nodes, rocks, trees, and you could even go fishing in clear waters. It's just something everybody's going to want to do to get their resources for crafting, cooking food, and building up cities. Also, it's a good way to get your stats up. It will raise all your stats. And like I said, you don't have to put these tools that you buy from NPC vendors on hotkeys anymore. You just walk up to a tree or whatever, and you press F, and it'll automatically pull out your wood axe. Now you need to be careful. You need to bank often because red people will come up and they will try to kill you and steal your resources. Resources are one of the best economy type items in the game because resources are just used for everything. So be smart about it, bank often. Now you're going to take your resources and you're going to go to crafting stations in towns. And you're going to want to be careful doing this also because if you're walking around overweight, people are going to see that you're overweight and they're going to try to kill you. They're going to try and get fun hulks. They're going to try and push you out of cities. They're going to try to knock you out of cities. So you don't want to go up to a smelter with 10,000 raw ore and auto left click the smelting button and go outside for an hour and play with your kid or whatever because you might come back dead and find yourself dead and all your 10,000 ore gone. That shit just happens. The ROA team's trying to work on that, but be careful. Also, when crafting, you guys are always going to need to take tools with you. You buy these tools again from the vendors. And so it's a kind of a pain. Sometimes you'll walk all the way to a crafting station over encumbered and then only to find out that you have to go back. Also remember to take gold. Oftentimes crafting things cost gold. Alright, so those are things to remember. Alright, moving on. You guys are eventually going to want to make your way to the capital city. At the capital city, you could buy many more spells, spell schools, weapon skills. You could basically buy everything you need at a capital city. Or, like I said earlier, a tier 3 mage tower in a player-owned city, which will take a while for big clans to build up. At these capital cities, they actually have a newbie dungeon. So really, after maybe an hour at the first town, you could actually make your way to the capital city. You could ask for directions or whatever. Maybe a quest will take you to the capital city. And there you want to bind to that stone. And you're going to want to basically hang out at this capital city until you meet up with your friends or clans or whatever you do. This is going to be a place where you want to buy and sell things from other players. You're going to want to try and get steed grass from herb bushes. With steed grass, you can mix with the whistle and build a mount. Mount will get you around faster in the world of Agon. All mounts now have sprinting and stamina. So if you run out of stamina on your mount, you could just auto walk and it'll increase, or you could just sit still and it'll increase also their stamina. While running around in the world of Agon, you will find plants. They're called papyrus. You will find mushrooms now that'll auto spawn. You'll find random chests. One of the biggest chests that you're going to want to get is called a chaos chest, and they stick out. They're pretty shiny on the top, and they're red. These chaos chests can have some really good loot sometimes, and sometimes, most of the time, actually, they could have some pretty shitty loot. Alright, so keep an eye out for anything that you see that's randomly spawning in the world and pick it up and save it. Remember, I said bank often. Bank, bank, bank. Now, one of the best items you could get in the game is a house deed. Now, they have cottages, houses, villas, large villas, and keeps. You could get these out of chaos chests. I don't know if it's only chaos chests or some mobs actually drop them still. I believe maybe it might only be chaos chests. Alright, so once you get a deed, you're going to want to go to a village. You may want to go scouting. You may want to bank your deed as fast as you get it, and then go scouting for a village that you think is cool looking or maybe near a good spawn of monsters, and kind of scout it out, see if they have the plot for your, let's say you get a keep. So go to a village and it might not have a keep spot. So you might have to go to another village until you find one with the keep spot. And once you find one, if there is no other keep there, then you're going to want to run to the closest bank, grab your deed, maybe tell your friends, say, hey, come be my bodyguard, and go. Once you go to the keep spot, you're going to double click on your deed and your keep will pop up and it'll be in your name. And remember, you have to pay the taxes every like 4 days. You could go as long as maybe like a week without paying. After that, you might need to have a friend pay for you if you're going on a vacation for a couple weeks. So be careful that you don't leave on vacation for 2.5 weeks. You come back and your keep is gone. All right. So Darkfall is a game all about clans. Many of you guys come from games where you call them guilds or factions or whatever, but in Darkfall we call them clans. I'd advise getting into a clan as soon as possible. Most of the time, they're going to want you to have a working headset. That's usually the basic requirement that every clan's going to want you to have. They're going to want you on their TeamSpeak or Discord or Ventrilo or whatever, Mumble, and they're going to want you be able to listen to them and talk to them while you're playing the game. So, invest in a headset if you don't have one. Don't be a stranger. Join a clan. You can solo it in Darkfall, but most people are going to be hostile to you. I'd say about 95% of the people. You can become a trader in Darkfall. We often call them China farmers because often a lot of those people, they don't do it just for fun. They do it to sell their items on player auctions. Alright, so moving on. One of the best ways to make gold and loot in this game is dungeons. Dungeons can be very dangerous. Dungeons now also give a reward of alignment, so you could go positive. And if you max out your alignment, you could get a free city recall, capital city recall every 30 minutes, I believe, which is a huge bonus. But it's going to be hard for a lot of players to be a positive 1,000 alignment uh, if you're a PvPer. If you're a PvPer, you're most likely going to just go red. And if you're red, you're most likely going to want to be in a clan. And if you're in a clan, you're going to want to be in a clan with a player city. Alright? Now, one of the first things you could do in Darkfall is you could get the resources to build a launch. A launch is a small ship. A ship will get you out and around the world Vagon much quicker sometimes, depending on where you start out. You can also capture villages. Um, some mobs drop black powder. You could also craft black powder. A launch has one back cannon, so you can do it by yourself. You could take a launch by yourself, park it, and you could shoot down a village capture point, and you'll get gold per hour. Now, the ROA team did make changes to this because in beta, people were getting really rich too fast doing this. So now it's based on how many houses are at the village spot. So if there's no houses, you're maybe only going to get a couple hundred gold. If there's full of houses at the village, you might get a couple thousand gold. All right? But still having a launch gets you around the world much quicker. Another thing to take into account in water combat is sea towers. Once a week or twice a week, a sea tower will go live. There's one in the north part of the map, one in the south part of the map. These are big events. A lot of ships show up, a lot of clans show up. Usually clans that capture these sea towers are the biggest clans in the game, unfortunately. But you can be sneaky. You could go there by yourself in a launch, and if you get the last shot out, you can actually win. You can win the tower. You could get all kinds of gold and resources, and also not only that, your clan will be sponsored in all of the newbie cities, meaning if a new player joins the game, they could go click on it and they'll automatically apply to your clan. Alright, starting a clan in Darkfall, it costs 2,000 gold. I believe to war deck a clan, it costs 2,000 or 5,000 gold. I cannot remember the exact amount. And a war lasts for 2 weeks. And you're allowed to war a clan every 24 hours, so once a day. Um, Now, be careful on warring clans because if you have a lot of new players in newbie cities and they have a lot of players in newbie cities, it's going to be hell on both clans. You're going to have newbies killing newbies. Eventually, one of those newbies is going to get butthurt and they're going to quit the game altogether. You're going to lose members. So just be careful war decking people unless they really piss you off and you just really want to kill them. Warring is mostly for sieges. If a clan owns a holding that you wish to siege, you're going to war deck them. You're going to have to go to the counselor at the capital city, at a capital racial city. You're going to have to buy a clan shard. You're going to have to buy siege stones to place. And then if they have walls, you're going to have to blow down all their walls at their city. So, and it's you also have to place a wager for the siege. So it can be pretty costly, guys. All right, so moving on. In Darkfall Rise of Agon, the devs are working on rebalancing monster loot, so it might not be the same that we're all used to. We're just gonna have to wait and see what mobs are worth what. Cities and holdings are also not going to be worth very much anymore. They're taking out teleportation chambers and exits. Used to be you could capture 10 cities and you could set up a teleport network so you could transfer over to other holdings with teleport shards that you'd find on monsters. Now they're taking those out of player cities and they're putting up chaos portals, meaning these portals can be anywhere and they could take you anywhere. It's up to you to figure out where they are and where they take you to. They're basically like wormholes in space. They're going to take you to a set location every time, but it's just learning out the whole network. Uh, and also player holdings now, they're not mines aren't going to be dropping as much rare ores, so they're going to lose some value there as well. Alright guys, now with all the general information out of the way, we're going to move on to what type of skills and spells you guys need to be working on. So the very first things you guys are going to want to work on is your two-handed weapon. Choose a two-handed weapon and stick to it. It's going to be your weapon of choice for the first few days because it's going to do the most damage. Also, you're going to want to work on your archery because some mobs are weaker to arrows. And archery is a good PvP weapon early on. It is hard to land arrow shots on other players, but if you do, it does a lot of damage. Alright, now you all are going to have to work on magics also. Even if you're going to be a warrior, a destroyer, a mage killer later on, which is a special role that you could buy at a capital city, you still need some magics. Now, the very first spells you're going to want to work on are pretty obvious. Heal self and your mana to stamina, your stamina to health, and your health to mana. These are called transfer spells, those three. And those are very, very important in the game. Probably the most important spells in the game. So level those up. Always use them. Work on using them while you're killing goblins, while you're doing anything. One of my friends, Quaz, he goes by different names in the game, but he is one of the best PvPers in the game. And He tells me how he farms is he acts like all the monsters on his screen are other players. Obviously, they're not as smart as other players, but he uses his own movement, his own character movement, as if they were, and he works on all his spells and weapon skills that he would use in a real PvP fight. So I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but if you want to work on becoming a really good PvPer, treat monsters as if they're dumb players. And even though they're dumb players, you still want to learn your keys, your rotations, and do everything you can as if they were real players. Stats early game are something that you are definitely going to want to get to 50. You're going to want to get all your stats to 50 as quick as you can, and then once they're all to 50, you're going to want to push them up to 75. After 75, it's going to be hard to get your stats up. You're going to have to depend a lot on your meditation system, which is costly. So do the quests that give you meditation points. Now, in the beginning, I usually melee farm at the beginning, so I push vitality up to 31st with extra health. I also do quickness for stamina and speed. The more quickness you have, the faster you can swing your weapon. You also get more stamina, so you can swing your weapon longer. And third, I work on intelligence. Intelligence is going to give me more mana. It's also going to give me a little more magnitude to my spell casting. So my heals are going to heal me for a little more. The damage spells I shoot at people is going to hit them a little harder. Now, in capital cities, you have title quests. You could go to each NPC in the capital city, and you could maybe get a quest for strength, quickness, dexterity, etc., etc., wisdom, whatever. I'd advise doing the health one or the quickness one. So, guys, when you're leveling up magics, each magic school has a sub school. So lesser magic has 4 sub schools. As you're learning, as you're getting your lesser magic up to 100, you should also be buying these sub schools. So for example, you could buy durable spells at level 10. You could buy mana efficiency at level 30. You could buy quicken spells at level 50, and you could buy intensify spells at 75. These levels may have changed, but it's somewhere in there. All right. You're going to want to buy all magic skill upgrades from the mage and arcanist when prerequisites are met. Magic skill upgrades, you'll find things like things called like archmage. An archmage will give you extra damage, or you'll find things like reagent conservation, meaning once in a while you'll spend less reagents on a certain spell cast, which saves you money. So make sure you buy all those little upgrade perks and stuff. If you're trying to make gold per hour, I advise debuffing mobs before shooting them. So if you're working on fire magic, I would debuff them with your little fire debuff, and then you could shoot your fire bolt at them over and over again. This will allow you to kill them quicker, but at the same time, you're still skilling up your magic. I would say buy speed upgrades at the capital city on all your debuff spells and your magma storm. Um, so, what you want to do, your first magic school, your real big hitter, hard hitter, is going to be fire magic. And you're going to obviously start with firebolt. And like I said, you could get a debuff to help with that. Most people use the debuffs only in PvE. There are some that use them in PvP, but those are the guys with really, really good aim. Alright, so, but when you're buying fire magic, you're going to want to focus on Fireball, Magma Storm, Volcano, and Inferno. Let's see, what else? There's like Rapid Shot and Haste. You're going to want to get those as well. You're going to want to buy the upgrade Jump Shot for these 3 spells, Fireball, Eye Rot, and Confusion. It just comes in handy. For Inferno, Virtuous Wrath, Unholy Flames, use the speed or magnitude upgrades. It's your preference. These are usually R90 spells. You either want them to hit hard or you want them to hit people real fast so they can't get out of the way. If you become a mage, skill up Fire School first, like I just said, and fill the second R90 slot with Volcano or Firebolt for mage combo. So a mage combo is R90, so it'd be Inferno, then you do Fireball, then you would do Magma Storm, then you would do Fireball, then you would do your second R90, which in this case would be Volcano. Or you could do Firebolt, or you could do a Dragon's Breath. Um, Usually when you're doing the spell rotation, it knocks the other player up in the air, and you could sneak in Array, which is Dragon's Breath. But most people that are uncomfortable with their aim, they could just keep doing this spell rotation over and over and over again, and wear down their. Okay, guys, so if you get blinded by spells like Confusion or Eye Rot or Pungent Mist, first thing you're going to want to do is you're either going to want to shield up and parry, or you're going to want to heal up. This is where your transfers come into play. Oftentimes when people throw blinds at you, it's because they're trying to run away from you. This is often a confusion. If you get hit with the eye rot, though, that often means they're trying to attack you. You'll just learn as you play. But so if they're attacking you, if they shoot an eye rod at you, you're going to want to parry. If they shoot a confusion at you, you're going to want to heal up and transfer while you can't see. And just keep going in the same direction where you last saw them, because most likely they're trying to evade you. If you get knocked up by a Fireball, Magma Storm, Inferno, then you're going to want to parry when you're knocked up. So because oftentimes other players are going to knock you up, like I said earlier, and then they're going to try and shoot a ray at you really quick. So as soon as you get knocked up, you're going to want to parry. If you're stuck in Wall of Forces, these are these like balls of energy. If you're stuck in them, you're going to want to parry. Oftentimes, vets are going to try to disable your parry, or they're going to try and debuff you. There's not much you could do in that case other than maybe you could shoot a shrapnel or a storm blast underneath you, or you could throw a battle spike underneath your feet to try to knock you out of the waff. That's a wall of force. We call them wafts in Darkfall. Now debuffs. Most people use them in PvE, like I mentioned earlier. A lot of people do use them in PvP. They usually use quick debuffs like slashing weakness or piercing weakness. You can take potions to get rid of these effects, but most people, they don't run around with them unless they're pretty rich. You're going to always make sure you have food running. This will help with all of that. Make sure your food buff is always on. Never forget your food. Always take potions with you. Use them as much as you can. They have a cooldown. So every time that cooldown's up, you're going to want to pop a potion. It can get very expensive, but just you got to have them, even if they're just small potions or medium potions. Now, this thing is extremely important, so you got to listen here. You never want to run out of stamina. If you run out of stamina in Darkfall, you will die. If you're farming a monster and you run out of stamina, you will die. If you're fighting another player and you run out of stamina, you will die. If you're swimming out in the ocean and the Kraken's chasing you and you run out of stamina, you will die. Alright? So never run out of stamina. Always want to have that mana to stamina transfer going. Actually, you want all three of those transfers going. You want to be shooting off those three transfers all the time. You're going to want potions, food. When you're farming kind of hard mobs with magic, it's best time to practice PvP, like I mentioned earlier what my friend Quaz does. Act like they are another player. Try to learn all your key bindings at this time. Learn your distances and your timing. Depending on how close you are, it messes with your aim. You're going to want to figure out how fast your spells can get to your targets. So really practice on mobs. Now, lesser magic spells. These are the ones that you're going to want to get. So listen carefully. Your transfers, you start with those. Your heal self, you start with those. Now, in every school, every magic school, you're always going to want to buy all the self buffs and the buff other skills. So you could buff yourself before fights, and you could buff your friends before fights. Now, in lesser magic, you're going to want to buy heal mount. You're going to want to buy launch. Heal mount is the only heal mount spell in the game, so you're obviously going to want that if your mount takes damage. Launch is used when you're standing in front of a wall and you're trying to jump over it. So let's say you stand 1 foot away from a wall and you shoot the spell right in front of your face at the wall. The magnitude of this force will launch your character straight up into the air so you could jump over a fence. So, for example, if let's say Trump builds a border wall and Mexicans become mages and they all buy a launch spell. Well, they could run up, stand 1 foot away from the Trump wall, and they could shoot this spell 1 foot in front of their face. It'll grab their head and launch their body up over the wall. All right, so that's how you would use it. Another thing to take into account with mounts, guys, is out in the world, other players can steal your mount, so you don't want to just leave them hanging around. It used to be real bad. People run into NPC cities on their mount, get off, and someone would be standing next to them, and they'd jump on the mount and take off and steal it. This was very common. Big picture games, guys, they said, hey, this is no good. This is a type of griefing. So they give you a slight timer on your mount, but if you leave it out for a fucking minute, it's still going to get stolen. So be careful. Put that thing away. Alright guys, so back to spells that you guys want to buy. So besides launch and heal mount, you're going to want to buy burden. This is pretty useful for destroyers. Mages don't often use this, but destroyers can. Destroyers are the guys where they can't use elemental magics and higher end magics. They do more damage to mages, etc. Alright. Burden basically makes mages, if they get hit by this, their spells aren't going to hurt as bad. Alright, moving on to greater magic. This is the second magic school you're going to buy. You could buy it when your lesser magic is at 50, I believe. You're going to want to buy the debuffs, the buff others. You're definitely going to want to buy heal other at level 15. Heal other. You're going to want to buy shrapnel. I forget at what level you could buy this. This is going to be one of your first spells that you could get away from enemies. You shoot this spell at your feet and it'll launch you forward. Or you jump into it and you just kind of bunny hop away. Your second getaway spell is Begone. Begone is used in the water and on land. This is going to be your #1 spell for getting into fights and getting out of fights. You all are going to want to practice this. A lot of the elite clans, they're just going to be all over you guys with these type of spells, with Shrapnel, Begone, Storm Blast. Storm Blast is in the Lightning School. So you guys, you just really need to learn this shit. You're going to be watching other PvP videos. You just need to practice it. You're going to want to ask other people that know how to do it. You just got to do it, guys. You got to learn. Confusion. You get this at Greater Magic level 100. This is going to be your first blind spell. You shoot the spell at your feet, and it's basically used to get away from people, but you could even use it when starting a fight. You could shoot a confusion at your feet and blind your opponent and maybe get in a couple good hits on them. Spell chanting, this is going to be your third magic school you're going to get into. You're going to want to get the little mana blast. You shoot this at people. It's basically to level up the school. It doesn't really do a lot of damage. The biggest spell in spell chanting that you want is Sacrifice. Sacrifice is going to be your best heal other spell. Remember in Greater Magic you got heal other and now you got sacrifice. You're going to want to put these two spells on the same hotbar, or the same hot button or whatever. So if you use, let's say, T for example, you're going to want both of these spells on T. And you're just going to rapid crossfire heal others and sacrifice at your friends if they're taking a lot of damage. Sacrifice is very, very important. Spell chanting school is basically a bunch of self buffs and buff others. So just you could buy all those. It's up to you. Adept in spell chanting. It used to be really good. Now, because they took away fizzles, you only use it if you get tongue rotted. Some mages will debuff you, they'll tongue rot you, meaning you can't cast spells worth a shit. You'll just fail a lot of times. Witchcraft. Witchcraft is very, very important school to have. Again, some of the spells you're going to want to buy, you're going to buy needles, and that'll help you level the school up. You're going to buy debuffs, a lot of debuffs in Witchcraft. You could use these in PvE and PvP. Usually in Sieges people use them. But this is where you get your second heal self spell, Witch's Brew. And Witch's Brew does a lot of self-healing. It's a very, very good spell. You're definitely going to want that as quick as you can. Another good spell you're going to want is you're going to be your first ray. It's called Insect Swarm. Destroyers will all have this spell. It just does, I believe it does stamina damage and shit and infliction damage. Tongue Rot. Tongue Rot we just talked about. You use that to shoot usually mages so their spells fail. And then you're going to get Mana Leech at level 90. Mana Leech will take someone's mana and give it to you. So that's a very good spell. Now we're getting into fire magic. So the spells you're going to want here is Impetus, which is a buff. You're going to want Firebolt. You're going to want Weakening Blaze, which is the debuff. You're going to want Dragon's Breath, which will be your second ray. If you're Destroyer, you cannot get these spells. You can't get any of the fire, air, earth, whatever, water magic. Alright, so the other spell you're going to want to get is Explosion at level 30. You're going to want to get Fire Shield at level 25. So Explosion, a lot of people use this in water. So when you're learning to be gone in the water, what you could do is when you jump into the air after you cast it Be Gone, you could press the explosion button and you'll get an extra launch. You'll get more distance. Or if you're trying to jump over a city, you could use it with your launch. Or a lot of people will storm blast themselves over a city and then they could also explosion after that. Also in the water, you could use a waft before you Be Gone. So you shoot a waft like 50 feet in front of you, then you Be Gone into the waft, and then you press explosion, and this will get you super, super far. It's like a super big bunny hop. Alright guys? So I know I'm probably losing a lot of you, but I'm just trying to explain when these type of things are going to come into play. Haste. Haste is a big, big spell if you're going to be in a clan or if you're playing with a friend. You guys need this for farming. I would say don't go Destroyer right away. You guys are going to want to stick around, be at least a fire mage for a little while you guys are skilling up, because this is how you guys are going to get your melee up real quick. You're going to need the haste. It's a buff other spell. Alright. So what else are you going to want? You're going to want Fireball, like I mentioned earlier. You're going to want Rapid Shot. Again, this is another buff other spell. It's very good for raising your guys' archery, doing buddy teamwork against mobs. You're going to want Magma Storm, you're going to want Inferno, and you're going to want Volcano. I talked about those earlier. All these fire magics are really all you need to be a good mage if you can land all your hits. Alright, so again, the mage cycle is your second R90 nuke from another school. Fireball, Magma Storm, Fireball, Inferno. But if you don't have a second school, like I mentioned earlier, you could use Volcano. Alright? Air Magic. So again, in all these, I'm not even going to mention it after this. all these schools, you're always going to want to buy all the buffs and buff other spells, alright? So agility, you're definitely going to want arrow shield. Arrow shield's going to save you when you're fighting against an archer. You're going to want ball lightning, you're going to want lightning shield, you're going to want lightning bolt. Lightning bolt is another ray. Rays are instant cast spells. You're going to want one button for all your rays, and you're going to want it to select it on your hotbar to auto select the one that's off timer or whatever. You're going to want lightning weakness, guiding wind. You're going to want lightning ward. So this is where you get your storm blast at level 70. You guys are definitely going to want this. You fire this 2 feet in front of you on the ground and you jump into it and it'll launch you really far. Alright guys, getting into earth magic. You're obviously going to get acid arrow. You're going to get your first kind of defensive buff. You're going to get bronze. You're going to get tarnish to debuff people. You're going to get acid shield to buff yourself against other earth mages. You're going to get impale. Impale is one of the biggest rays. You're going to probably want that on your first. Let's say you have one button for 10 or 7 rays or whatever, how many rays you have. You're going to want impale to be your number 1. It's going to do the most damage. Alright, acid ward. You're going to get stone skin. You're going to get stamina leech. So stamina leech is like the mana leech that you got earlier, only it's going to steal people's stamina and give it to you. This is all the top PvPers use stamina leech. It's a pretty good one. Stamina, like I mentioned earlier, if you run out of it, you die. Pungent mist. This is one of the blind spells. This is also a ray. It's kind of costly, so you don't want to miss it. It'll blind people pretty good. You're going to get Iron Skin to buff other friends. And at level 100, you get Meteor Strike. They recently did a change to Meteor Strike, making it, I believe, even better of a spell. Most people used to use these in sieges to kill mounts, or even in regular combat to kill mounts. Now, even you could use it for PvP. It'll be a pretty good spell. Getting into water, you're going to get Clear Thoughts. It's going to give you extra mana pool. Icicle, you're going to get Gills. Gills is a good spell to have when you're doing water combat. You can stay underwater for like 10 minutes or whatever and not have to come up for air. You get Delayed Shot, Weakening Chill. You get Frostbite. Frostbite's another ray. So again, you can add that to your raise bar. You're going to get Cold Shield, Cold Ward. You're going to get Water Breathing. You're going to get Slow. And then you're going to get Ice Storm. Ice Storm is going to be your first like big cloudy spell to get away from fights. You shoot that and then people can't see you on the other side. It's a pretty good way to kind of run away and hide. Toxic Rain. This is one of the best AoE spells, area effect. A lot of players use these in sieges. They even use it in single combat. They often use it in they drop a waft and then they drop a toxic rain on you. Alright, getting into Arcane, you're going to get the Sacred Missile, you're going to get Hasten Spells. Hasten Spells is very, very important if you're going to be a mage. You're going to want to cast this buff before you do any other type of spell casting. It's just going to make all your spells cast faster. You're going to get Holy Shield, you're going to get Lend Mana, you're going to get Mystic Ward, you're going to get Holy Weakness, and then you're going to get Wall of Force at level 50. Wall of Force, again, most people will be using this in sieges. Big Picture Games team increased the stat use of Wall of Force. They felt too many people were taking advantage of this spell. I kind of disagree. I believe it's actually a spell that everybody should be taking advantage of because in Darkfall, you run into a lot of larger crowds of clans, and if you want to outplay a larger clan, you need to have spells like Wall of Force. Otherwise, they're just gonna zerg you, and it's just no fun, right? You're gonna get spell immunity. You're gonna get Virtuous Wrath, and you're gonna get Spell Reflect. Virtuous Wrath is a very powerful R90. Spell Reflect is a very powerful spell also. If you cast that and you're fighting a mage, you could turn your back to them and they'll shoot you with their R90, a head-on shot, and they'll get all the damage and you won't get any. Curse Bolt. This is in Necromancy. You could get Undeath. You use on mobs that heal. Um, Basically, there's a lot of mobs that regenerate health really fast. You want to shoot Undeath at them so they don't regen that quickly. You're gonna want to get Unholy Caress. That's another ray. You're gonna want to get Desecration. You're gonna want to get Slash and Weakness. You're going to want to get Piercing Weakness. You're going to want to get Vampiric Touch. Vampiric Touch is the other type of leech. It'll steal someone's HP and give it to you. You're going to want to get Infernal Ward. And you're going to want to get Eye-Rot. Eye-Rot, you remember you want Jump Shot on Eye-Rot. You're going to jump around and shoot people at their feet to blind them. Unholy Flames is at level 100. This is a very powerful nuke as well. Alright guys, so what you guys want to do now? Alright guys, lastly, what you want to do is you want to remember to buy all your melee and archery general skills from the fighter and blacksmith. You want to buy your rage skill. This is in melee powers. This is like an extra lifeline. It's like a heal. If you're basically on your last leg, you're about to die, you pull out your weapon and you use a rage, and as long as you have that weapon out, you'll start to heal real quick for a short period of time. You're going to want to buy double jump add-on. This is very useful, so you could jump over fences and big rocks and shit like that. Racial skills are now auto included on your races, so you don't got to worry about that anymore. You're going to want to buy stat skills at player cities. When people have all their cities fully built, you could go to them and you could buy extra stat bonuses. So instead of having 100 health, 100 strength, you can now get like 105 health and 105 strength, etc. At capital cities, remember, this is where you get Destroyer, Mage Killer, Double Jump. This is the best role for melee archer type players, and this is for killing mages because there's going to be a lot of mages in Darkfall. Destroyers and Mage Killers, it's a very expensive role to go, but it's not as much of a character grind. You're still grinding, but it's more of a gear grind than a character grind, if that makes any sense. Remember, you're going to want to use your disable shot with a bow when an enemy is parrying in a wall force. You could use disabling blow when in melee range and they are parrying. Many players use this on cooldown and first melee hit. So as soon as you see someone and you're going to get into melee combat, most of the time the vets will use it right away. So if a guy tries to parry up, it just won't work. And remember, you guys, you could use light battle spikes as an extra way to get away from opponents or catch up to. Throw these at your feet and bunny jump away.